Okay, I believe we can start now. Welcome everyone to this session. It has really been quite eventful. I've been listening to Dr. Folaranmi's talk, and I've learned a lot of things myself. So now we are this plenary session will discuss what it entails to get admission into the United Kingdom, either England, Scotland, Northern Ireland, or Wales. And we have a lot of people lined up for this, and I think they will do a lot of justice to this. So I would like to introduce you to the panel members. The first is Shegun, who spoke earlier, as you all listened to. Then the next is Adekola. I would let them introduce themselves shortly after this. Then the last person is Ozioma. I'm excited to listen to what they have to say. We'll establish some ground rules. We want to make this as interactive as possible. So feel free to ask questions, either in the chat box or just raise up your hand with the reaction. Then I'll call your name and then we can proceed from there. So I would like to call on Adekola to introduce himself, since Shegun has already done an introduction in the earlier speech.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, yes, we can.
All right, good. My name is Adewale Adekola. I'm a Nigerian. Background was in veterinary medicine. Graduated from the University of Ibadan. I had a master's in clinical pathology, then got interested in public health afterwards. So that was when I decided to go in for a master's in public health. Unfortunately, I was sponsored by the Commonwealth Commission then, under the Commonwealth Shared Scholarship, which I used for my MPH program in 2016, 2017. Afterwards, came back to Nigeria, worked briefly with the Nigeria Center for Disease Control. And I think a combination of my experience as a clinical pathologist and working with the NCDC inspired the topic that I later got interested in for my PhD. And I applied for a PhD at the Royal Veterinary College in London. And with the Commonwealth, I applied for the Commonwealth Scholarship as well for the PhD option, and I got that. And that's what I've been on since 2018 till now. So I think somehow I always joke about being a poster child for the Commonwealth Shared Commission. So since I've actually been bombing from one of the scholarships to the other one. So I think basically that's it about me. I'm in my third year of my PhD as well. So.
Thank you. That's fantastic. Working for the Nigerian CDC is amazing. I've been eyeing that position for quite a while. Maybe I'll speak with you after this. And yes, I know a lot of people.
No problem.
Yeah, thank you. I know a lot of people have questions about the Commonwealth Scholarship. So it's nice to have a Commonwealth Scholar. I would also like to call on Ozioma to do a quick introduction.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much, Tolu. I was just walking around my video and wondering why I was upside down. Lovely to meet everybody. My name is Ozioma. I'm Nigerian. I had my bachelor's from University of Lagos in computer science. And I recently completed my master's from Carnegie Mellon University, where I was a Mastercard Foundation scholar. And later this year, I'll be starting my doctorate in business and management at the University of Manchester. So in between all of those, I have a little bit of work experience, majorly in consulting, Big Four consulting back in Nigeria. So yeah, thank you. And I'm looking forward to an engaging session. Thanks.
Thanks a lot. That's also equally fantastic. The Mastercard Scholarship is quite prestigious, and it'd be nice to hear your take on the Mastercard Scholarship and your experience as a computer scientist, also studying something somewhat different. And finally, I would like to call on Shegun to reintroduce himself. I guess it's different when you introduce yourself and when someone else introduces you. So Shegun.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm Shegun. I did medical training in Nigeria. I'm from Nigeria, in Ibadan. And did my internship, started my internship, and I'm currently completing my master's in immunology at Oxford through the Clarendon Scholarship, which is like the university scholarship. And subsequently, I'll be joining Cambridge for my PhD in cancer immunology at the CRUK. So I'm interested in, combining cancer research with patient care, and also improving access to education. So yeah, I'm happy to take any relevant questions or any kind of questions.
Yeah, thank you very much. As you can all see, these are great men and women, and I hope you are attentive to learn from them. And I'll give you an advice I tell everyone in general. When you attend talks like this, try and connect with the speakers or the facilitators or the panel members via LinkedIn so that I can continue this conversation. I just don't end it at this conference. So I'm going to just ask a general question, then randomly pick on one of you to lead the conversation. Can you just, in 2 to 3 minutes, describe your application experience to either your master's program or your PhD program? And I'd like to start with Adewale Adekola, if that's all right.
Okay. My application process, I think it was, I had no choice. Let me put it that way. I had no choice. I already started a master's in UI then, and it was really tough doing a biomedical research with very limited resource when you're paying out of pocket. So I knew at that moment I needed a better option if I was going to make any headway with my research. So I think that was one of the things that actually drove me to apply for my application. And I think one of the things that helped me was getting the right information from people, friends who've actually applied years ahead of me, and colleagues who are also applying. And I've been a very good network of friends also who could develop like a system where we all helped each other with our applications. You review my application for me, I'll review yours for you. So it's that peer mentorship, peer network system also really helps. So does that answer the question?
Yes, it does. And you actually made mention of a very good point that Segun brought up in his previous talk, information. And that takes me to my next question for Ozioma. People have been saying information drives or propels success. How exactly do you access this information? Where is information? Because we seem to insinuate that information can be found everywhere. But then how do you reach out to get this information? I was wondering if you could give us insight from your own application process, how you got the information, and how you were able to reach out to people to guide the application process.
Yeah, thanks. So I think for when people say information, when I first started out for my master's, I was pretty confused. Okay, where do I go to? Which school? What do I even want to do specifically? I knew what I wanted to do, but what area? There were so many projects, so many, subgroups that I could join. And what helped me was reaching out to somebody who was already doing what I wanted to do. And eventually I ended up going to her school, or the school that she finished from. It was Carnegie Mellon. And for my PhD, it was pretty much the same thing. I had reached out to, I think I even lost count for my PhD because I was more serious. I reached out to like so many people doing what I wanted to do in the kind of field I wanted to do. Some of them, I literally just listened to their stories, but their schools didn't have the program that I wanted. So I just, gained information from them. So I think in summary, to answer that question very precisely, I think what helped me in terms of information was looking for someone that was doing what there's the long way you can research and, fill out spreadsheets and do all of that. But for me, I didn't really have so much time on my hands when I was applying for both programs. So I just looked for people that were doing what I wanted. And then I learned from their experience or asked questions.
Yeah, thank you very much for that insight. So you just sort of have to look at people who are doing something similar to you. And that takes me to Segun. There's something that has been coming up recently. I read an article about self-exclusion while applying for opportunities. So, for example, you want to apply for either the Clarendon Scholarship and they say, oh, it's only for people that have this particular credential. And you're like, oh, there's no way I'm going to get this, so I'm not going to apply. Can you tell us if you've dealt with this issue before, how you were able to overcome this, and any other insights or information you can give to us?
Yeah, thank you. So I think I ended my talk with, go for it. So like there have been instances that we know of where people have put cutoffs to say, okay, you need to get 2-1 and above, but that it's a research intensive, program, for instance, and you've got like significant research experience. You can email the professors, you can email the schools and say, okay, I've got this research experience. Interestingly, my undergraduate degree came out as a 2-2, but I can demonstrate to you that I can do this and that, right? So it's important to not just like hold back and exclude yourself from these opportunities. And so that's a way to go about it. You can talk to people currently in the program as to, what what are the skills that will help you survive in this program? Then go ahead and get those skills, and then tell the professors that I have so and so skills. I can assure you that I'll survive in this program. So it's really about like trying to, there are cutoffs, there are things like that, but trying to see how you can beat that if you've had a challenging, past in terms of like your, gathering your requirements for the program. And particularly, I think also that it's important to look for programs that are a good fit for you. Not only that, it goes two ways, because we are the ones that look like we're on the receiving end. So you just want to apply everywhere. But it's also good to say, everyone has their own peculiarities in terms of your skills and your capabilities. So if you can then find a program that with your own skills and capabilities, of course, you expand on it, you can be a good fit for them. That's also helpful if you don't meet up to certain, places. Yeah.
Thank you very much to the three of you.
Sorry. Do you mind if I just add something? To add to what Sheldon said, I think if I would use a PhD program as a very good example, the PhD program is not designed for, it's quite different from a postdoc program where you already have all the skill sets. A PhD is such that you're going in there to actually do a research and develop your skills as you on the go, especially with the UK system where you don't have classes and things like that. So I think also, all you just have to demonstrate and actually show is actually the fact that you have an idea of what your research is about or what you're interested in, how you intend to actually go about it. You don't need to have all the skill set. When I started my own PhD, I had almost zero molecular epidemiology, knowledge as well. So I think you need to just actually demonstrate that, okay, this is what I'm interested in. This is where I intend, what I intend to do with the research or the skill set I would acquire. And your PhD is also about the transferable skills you would acquire as well. It's not about you just becoming an expert. You can't become an expert in that topic with your PhD alone. You just need to use it to acquire enough skill sets and transferable skills, and not just even research skills alone, that you can now translate into impact at the end of the day, which is also another major thing. What's the impact of what you want to do and what you intend to accomplish with your research as well? So I think it's you being able to demonstrate that you don't need to have all the experience, you don't need to have all the grades. Most times you realize the people that do best in PhD program are not usually always the ones with all the first class, but the ones that can actually put in the effort, are tenacious enough and actually have the drive to actually do what they're meant to do. So I think that's just what I would add to it.
Yeah, thank you very much. So
I just want to add it's just something small, if it's okay. I used to be a very major, I don't know what to call it. I don't know what they call people who self-exclude themselves a lot. And then someone told me something that really changed my life one time. And she said to me, if you always say no to yourself, the answer will always be no. However, if you say yes, then you have a possibility of getting yes from others. So the only way for you to even know if you would ever get in is if you say yes to yourself. But if you keep saying no, you never know. And specifically for PhD, when I was, my bachelor's was in computer science, my master's was in information technology, and my PhD, it's still in decision sciences, which means I'll be applying technology for something, but it's in the business school. So it's under the business and management department. So I really struggled a lot with, oh my God, will I be a good fit? And I'm not even going to lie, in my interview, there were quite some questions that he asked me, and I'm like, I don't know, but I've done something like this in computer science. And I think that, it's the same skills, basic skills. And they ask another thing, and I'm like, I don't know about this, but I've read this about that, and the fact that I kept the conversation going when I eventually got in was one of the things that my supervisors highlighted to me. So it's not about like knowing everything. It's just about pretty much connecting the things you've done in the past with the things they're asking you and just finding bridges, I guess. Yeah.
Thank you very much. That has been very insightful. We've been able to address two areas, information and self-exclusion. And I can see the three of you can really relate well with this self-exclusion, which is becoming an epidemic. And that takes me to my next question. So let's say the participants here now, they've gotten all the information they need. They've decided not to self-exclude. So in your experience, what are the common mistakes that people make while filling an application form or while trying to apply or research application into programs in the UK? Anyone can start. I just want to throw it open.
Okay, maybe I'll start. I don't know specifically if it's a mistake that people do in the UK, but I know it's a mistake that's very common with grad school applications, which is kind of some lack of focus, to be very honest. Like when I applied for my master's, I was applying for just one program, and thankfully I got in. But when I was applying for my PhD, I applied to, I don't know, about 10 different projects, schools. And it was partly desperation because I just knew that this was the next thing I wanted to do that would take me to where I want to be. And I just wanted to get in, which can be good. But I was reviewing one of my SOPs about 2 weeks ago, and I saw that it was a statement that I had written for an internship, which I was trying to convert because lack of focus. And in the PhD application, I was telling them how XXYZ will be very good because I feel I'll be a very great fit for this internship. And I wasn't shocked when they didn't call me back because obviously that's the biggest mistake or very gross mistake. So what I'm trying to say is one common mistake is lack of focus. It will be nice for you to streamline what you want to do. And I mean, I love to be resilient and dogged, but streamline your efforts into, a few places. Yes, cast your bread upon many waters, but you want to have places where if you got your mind can carry 10 places or schools, that's fine. But just make sure that whatever it is you're doing, you want to give it your best focus. And then the second common mistake, I think, is lack of preparation. So you want to start writing an SOP 2 weeks before. And maybe you're a very good writer, and that's fine. But I think you want to give sufficient time to ensure that you're not just writing, you're not just paying someone to, because believe me, these people have been reading SOPs since forever. They can tell when it's genuine, and they can tell when it's just like off some website or off the shelf. So, prepare, give it your best shot. If you are going in for an interview, make sure you're not going to be wasting the time of the people, that will be interviewing you. So 2 things: try and focus, and secondly, prepare adequately. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone want to add to it? Shegun, Adekola, any additions?
Let me add another thing. I think another thing that actually another common mistake is actually not applying early enough, not giving yourself enough time to actually get everything you need together. Because if you need to apply for something like maybe Commonwealth Shared Scholarship now, you need to get the admission first and also have all the necessary documentation you need for the program as well. So it's quite difficult for someone who wants to apply for that now and then probably like 5 days to deadline, and you now rushing around to get the admission and then putting that application for the scholarship as well. So it's you understanding the time frame of the application itself and knowing how to actually strategically design how you're going to apply and say, okay, I need to get the admission first, and then giving yourself enough time for all the different aspects of the application process. And I think another thing I should have added is understanding the application process itself also, because I've met people that said, oh, I applied for Commonwealth Scholarship, but I wasn't nominated. I was like, did you get the admission for the university? I said, no. I was like, so how do you expect the university to nominate you if you didn't actually get the admission in the first place? So I think it's you understanding what's the application process for the scholarship you're applying for and how the whole thing works, giving yourself enough time. And then there's always this thing about you being blind to yourself. When you write your own application, there are certain things you feel is perfect. But trust me, when another person goes through it, they will tell you, oh, this thing is wrong and all that. So it's always having that system, I always say I had it like it's more like a peer network of friends who can actually help you review things. It's more like a peer review system for journals. You have friends that actually review your application and tell you, oh, this is wrong. Why don't you put it this way? Why don't you? It's getting that different perspective, another person looking at it from another angle to actually tell you things you can do better. And then also most times I always say most scholarship application is like you telling a story, and everything needs to follow a logical flow. Like for Commonwealth Scholarship now, or for most scholarship being funded by the government or a charity organization, that they have specific thematic areas they're interested in. So it's you being able to actually align what you're trying to say, your own career goals, your own research interest with that thematic focus that they have, and then say, okay, this is what I've done will combine with what I intend to do to achieve what you guys have in mind for places like Nigeria or why you actually set up a scholarship in the first place. Is you being able to tell that story in a convincing way with actionable impact at the end of the day. It's not you saying, oh yeah, you're going to make Nigeria the next utopia in the world. No, you have to be realistic as well. And also, I think another mistake I think people make is sub-stories. I think they've reviewed enough applications to know all those sub-stories that, oh yeah, my mom died and stuff. It's not going to cut it. Yeah, it might help, but you don't need to make that the main focus of what you want to say. I like your strength. I like the things you want to work on, and just hammer on those important things, really. I think that's it.
Thank you very much. Shegun, do you want to add anything? Because I also have a question on the chat box for Adewale and Shegun.
Okay.
So which I'll follow up with after this.
Yeah, I think that has been properly flogged. Yeah, it's important. The story part is something I'm keen on because I think I've seen quite a number of personal statements. So you see, they want you to come from the place of strength, not that all of these things have happened to me, so pity me, because like it's an investment, right? So they don't want to pity you, right? So they want to see that, okay, you're coming from a place of strength. So even if you do have challenging stories to tell, don't tell them from the place of pity. I think that's quite common. Like, don't tell them from a place of pity. Tell them from a place of strength that despite this, I have been able to do this. And if you give me this opportunity, if you invest in me, I'm going to then take it further because of all of this experience that I've gotten and then push further than that. Also, I think because I know we've talked about the, Adewale and Ozioma have talked about the submission aspect, right? The other key thing is that it doesn't come from you. I know I talked about it during the talk. It's letter of recommendation. It's something very key. Right? So be very careful. It's a very important mistake. People just tell people that I'll write letter of recommendation, and then some people will just photocopy what they wrote for Shegun, for Tolu, and all those things, and then. You need people who can actually talk very well about you. Then when it comes to you getting to the interview, let the interview process, the real interview process, let it not be the first time you are knowing about the system. So if you're going to be interviewed in a group, reach out to current PhD students in that group. But you'll be surprised that, like, so one of the strongest interview questions I got during my Cambridge application was a particular paper that my PhD supervisor did the latest paper from their lab, to tell them what they could have done better. But because I've had chats about the project, in fact, it was what was most challenging about the project that they couldn't achieve that I spoke about first. That we tried to do that and we didn't get to do it. It just didn't work. So you see, you've known about the project. When I was applying to my MSc, because I had almost known about like the kind of questions I was going to be asked, because I talked to like people like me who were, in the program currently. So it's very, very helpful to get an inside information. It helps a lot. Don't just, jump into the program. Get inside information. It's very, very helpful. Yeah.
Thank you for that. I'll go to the first question on the chat, especially for Adewale and Shegun. It's about how medical students can aspire to be clinician scientists, sort of. How can you combine research with clinical practice? Is it possible at all? Is it a myth? Especially coming from places where we studied undergraduate, people think it's either one or the other. So do you have any insights based on your own experience how to answer this question?
You can go first.
Yeah, go ahead. Go first.
Okay.
There's a reason why I want to go first, because I'm a vet, so it's quite different.
Yeah, I see. In fact, I got a lot of questions about, what exactly are you looking for? And I think because I've had to show people a lot of things. So because like if you trained in a place like the UK or the US, you had the option of doing an MDPhD or an MDPhD, where your PhD was in fact insinuated within your medical school, and that's like perfect and all that. So, but again, there's another side to the story, because it's not very familiar in our environment, right? But the purpose of it is for it to be a bridge between those who are core scientists, whom we actually really need, and then but there often then will then be a gap between translating what people are. There's knowledge for the sake of it, and like scientists are very fantastic people. But when, on a certain level where you want to translate this work to really benefiting patients, it might be good to have somebody who has had core clinical training, to join the team. So it's something very interesting. It's not new at all. It's the MDPhD program in the US is fully funded and has been on since the 1960s or 1970s. So it's not new at all. Like, they've been MD PhDs for long. It's just that it's not very common. So it's something you can definitely do. The challenge with it is that, because it's not curated from our environment, I had to do 6 years to 7 years of medical school, try to get into a master's or a PhD. I'm spending significant time out of clinical practice. And so if I really want to be a clinician scientist, getting back into clinical practice might be a bit difficult. So that's what you must think about very well. So if you have the means to get into residency ASAP, you better do. You can probably do a master's, right? And then if you have the means to get into clinical training, ASAP, then you can do your PhD within your residency. Many institutions actually do allow residents to take 3 years off to do PhD. What is most important is that understand your purpose and figure out the potential possibilities of getting to your purpose, and then go for which one is best for you.
So, to add to what Shegun said, I think I will come in from the angle of a vet now. And maybe I should use my own personal experience to tell the story. I think the most important thing is actually most people don't understand the place of research itself, what research is really about. Because it's more about, most of us are actually schooled in institutions where most of the publications are only just for promotion's sake and not really for the impact at the end of the day. My first master's was in clinical pathology, like I said. And one of the major problems we used to have then during post-mortem and all the other clinical cases review was, is this case a leptospirosis case, like in dogs, is this case a leptospirosis case or not? And trust me, my supervisor, my professors tend to fight a lot over things like that, because most cases, because you can't actually diagnose some cases completely, we always have loads of argument. And when I started working with the NCDC, I saw similar things as well at that time. And I think it's a combination of me saying, okay, this problem is manifesting in the vet sphere, and it's also similar to what is happening in the human health sphere as well. How can I actually come up with a solution to actually answer some of the questions, some of these questions that bridge this research gap? So it's you understanding that and say, okay, at the end of the day, the results from this research would actually have direct impact on my clinical practice as well. So I think it's you understanding that actually make it easy for you to actually say, okay, you want to combine your role as a researcher and also as a medical practitioner as well. And just like Shegun said, there are different programs now that actually make it easy for you to actually combine research with your residency, so you're not missing out on clinical practice or things like that. You're still doing your clinical practice by the side, and you still have time for your research as well. But one of the cool things about research is when you're actually really into clinical practice, you always, when you have a research mindset, you always see research questions to be answered, and you always see the relevance for research as well. So.
Thank you very much for that. That was from both of you. That was great. So my next question is for Ozioma, and it's from Richard, who is asking, how early can you apply? Because he's a final year student at the University of Lagos. So when is too early in the Nigerian context where you have to do NYC shortly after graduating from the university? So when is too early, or how early can you apply?
I think it depends on when you want to get in, actually. So I know that in the Nigerian school system, it can be a hassle. So for instance, my transcript, I had applied. So you know how you send in your soft copy and the physical soft copy is supposed to come. That didn't come until some days after my graduation, and my course was for 2 years. So you want to understand the peculiarity of your school and the things that are required to ensure that you give sufficient time, to ensure that by the time you're applying, you get adequate, your requirements are available. That said, so if you want to apply for next year now, I don't know how you want to factor in NYSC in case you don't want to do NYSC or you want to do NYSC, but depending on when you want to apply, I don't think there's anything as too early. So for when I was applying for my PhD, I had a spreadsheet for the schools I wanted to go to and their start date and their end date or the close of the application. And when I did that, these applications for most of the schools had not opened. So I had another column for what the requirements were. And I went about, gathering the requirements. And some of them I applied days into the application cycle. So I don't know if there's anything such as too early. I would just say give sufficient time to in fact prepare before it opens. So once it opens, you're just sending it in, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I would like to call on Zainab Mashu to ask a question. You can unmute yourself.
Good evening, everyone. Mashu Zainab, and I'm pleased to meet you all. My question is basically on Rhodes Scholarship. Am I audible enough before I proceed?
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yes,
my question is on Rhodes Scholarship. I saw the broadcast a few days ago, and I noticed that I need a potential supervisor before I can proceed. But one thing that has been confusing me lately is MSc by research in zoology, because I'm a zoologist, and basically I'm interested in conservative biology. So UK. But I noticed Rhodes Scholarship is affiliated with what's it called University of Oxford. So I decided to surf through their internet for potential supervisor. But I'm not able to and distinctly differentiate between Doctor of Philosophy and MSc by research, and which one is very, very important. Though supervisors that I've reached out to are not very, very responsive enough, but I still want to know, should in case anybody get back to me. And also, can I apply for the Rhodes Scholarship without potential supervisor answering me? Thank you.
Thanks for your question. I'll pass that to Shegun.
And that's very cruel of you to do, as I'm not a Rhodes scholar. But yeah, I mean, I was through the process, which was quite transformative. Yes, so you actually do not need to figure out everything about your, and I'm sure that Tolu would laugh at this. You don't need to figure out everything about your admission before you apply to the Rhodes. You just need to have a fairly solid idea of what you want to do with your life in code, right? Through your education. So it is after you have been awarded a Rhodes Scholarship that you will then need to make an application to Oxford, right? So it's the other way with GATE and the Commonwealth, where you need to. So in GATE, your department needs to want you first and then nominate you. In Commonwealth, your department needs to want you and then nominate you. So it's the other way. You get a Rhodes Scholarship and then apply to Oxford. But because they want to know what you want to go into Oxford, that's why they want you to have an idea that, okay, is there an MSc you're going for in zoology? How does that relate to your overall goals in life? What would you do with that education? Or is it a PhD, right? So, and you can actually have both as potential options. You can, because for a Rhodes Scholarship, you must spend minimum of 2 years in Oxford. Well, that's the rule. So you can do 2 masters. Some people do 2 masters, 2 1-year masters, and then you can do a master's and then a PhD. Right. So the key thing is that have an idea of which courses are likely that you want to do. If it's MSc by research in zoology, you can reach out to them now, fine. But you don't have to have a definite answer before you apply to the Rhodes Scholarship. Yeah. So I think the Rhodes Scholarship is so much.
Thank you for that question. It's because we are running out of time, but Shegun has said everything that needs to be said. A DPhil is different from a master's by research based on the duration of it. So for MPhils, which are masters, Oxford's equivalent of MRes, it's about 2 years, 2 to 3 years, while DPhils are 3 to 4 years, depending on the type of DPhil. So DPhil is another name for PhD at the University of Oxford. And just to give you a quick example, when I applied for the Rhodes Scholarship, I applied with the intention to do a master's, but then I actually got in for a PhD. So you don't need to have it figured out. You can change like along the road, depending on what happens. I would like to call on Emmanuel Banjo to ask this question.
Yes, hello. Good day, Dr. Tolu. Please, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Yes, you're audible. We can't hear you now.
You're muted now.
Now you're muted.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can now.
Okay. Okay then. So I just a quick one. I just wanted to ask them. Sometimes I personally like I'll really know how you guys deal with this. Sometimes I personally have when I want to apply for something and then I see some things like okay, let me just say background. I am a finance person. I work in the finance industry and I want to apply for my MSc in finance and economics at the London School of Economics and Political Science. So I already printed out the course program and I've read through it severally. But personally, sometimes there's just this doubt that comes to my mind. And I think I struggle with that sometimes when I see some things like, oh, this course is for exceptional students. This course is for excellent students. I'm like, you, I am not good grades where I don't know. I'm just like, okay, how do I deal with this? Like, how do I deal with that doubt that comes? Like, am I actually the exceptional student that I'm looking for? Am I actually the excellent student that I'm looking for? I just want to know how you guys, how you deal with that and how you personally overcome such such doubt, essentially.
Yeah, any one of you can go for it.
Manuel, let me start with a joke. The advice I always give people when things like that happen is just be like the British people. They call themselves Great Britain, but who actually call them great? They call themselves great, right? So I think you always have to tell yourself that, yeah, the exceptional student they are looking for. One of the things that actually usually happens is the people with the most to offer, like I always say, often think the least of themselves. So you need to actually understand that self-doubt is just normal most of the time. It's one of those things, imposter syndrome and all the other names for it. But the thing is, it's usually there. You always have that lingering feeling that, okay, probably you're not fit enough for the program, probably you're not good enough and all that. But see, when you keep putting yourself down, nobody's actually going to know how good you are. So you need to put yourself out there. Yeah, the times might come actually. I think that feeling tends to stem from the fact that we are all scared of failure. And the thing is, if you don't fail, you actually can't actually understand how good you are. Or if you allow that fear to actually hold you captive, you do not know how good you are and what you're capable of. So I think the most important thing to do is just put yourself out there, put in your best when you're applying. And if it comes out fine, well, all well and good. If it doesn't, then you know how best to actually adjust your application for the next round and see what the things that they probably need to actually make your application better. I think some applications are also very good because you can actually get feedback on your application and say, okay, why was my application not successful in the first round? Some might actually be kind enough to actually tell you, oh, this and this and that. And then you know the things to actually work on for the next round of application. Or you meet some of the people that actually who got the scholarship for that year. You can actually reach out to them and say, oh, I also applied for this, but I didn't get it. Can you actually give me some advice on how best to actually modify my application for the next round? And I think that's just the thing. Don't allow the fear of failure to actually hold you captive. Just go for it, okay?
Yeah. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
Yeah. Sorry, because of time, we may have to close this session now. Like you see, we just scratched the surface. We didn't even scratch the surface. It was just still floating. So we might have to move back to the main session now. It has been nice having everyone on board, and thanks to the panel members for sharing their words of advice and their nuggets. And finally, I'm just going to give a tip on using LinkedIn. So when you connect with any of the panel members on LinkedIn and it seems they are not responding to you, one thing I've learned to do is also to look for their posts and comment on their posts. You are more likely to get their attention because a few people have hundreds or 200s of requests that they've not had time to go through. But if, for example, I already post something about what he's doing in his lab and then you just make a comment and say, oh, this looks like a really interesting research. I'm keen to see what your results are. Then you can say, okay, I sent you a request. It's going to mention him and will come up on this notification as someone commented. Then you are more likely to get their attention that way. So that's one app you can try to use when you're trying to connect with people. So I will have to close this down. I will see you in the main section.